Before people openly acknowledge their feelings, they usually reveal them through their behavior, and one of the earliest places this becomes visible is in conversation. Not the dramatic kind of conversation that immediately signals romance, but the ordinary, seemingly insignificant exchanges that begin appearing more frequently than they need to. A woman who is developing feelings for you often starts looking for reasons to talk to you. What is important here is not necessarily what she says, but the fact that she keeps finding ways to say something. Many men overlook this because they are searching for obvious signs. They expect attraction to announce itself clearly. They wait for direct compliments, overt flirting, or unmistakable declarations of interest. But human beings are rarely that straightforward, especially when emotions are still forming. Feelings tend to emerge gradually, and communication becomes one of the safest ways to explore those feelings. Psychologically, conversation is much more than an exchange of information. It is a form of connection. Every time we choose to reach out to someone, we are making a small investment of attention and emotional energy. We are saying, consciously or unconsciously, "You are on my mind." This is why one of the phrases you may hear from a woman developing feelings is surprisingly simple. "I was just thinking about you." Now, on the surface, that statement may seem casual, but consider what it actually means. Out of all the people she knows, out of all the demands and distractions competing for her attention, you entered her thoughts. And more importantly, she felt compelled to tell you. Human attention is one of our most valuable psychological resources. We direct it toward what matters to us. We think about what interests us, what concerns us, what excites us, and what has emotional significance. When someone repeatedly finds reasons to contact you, share a thought, send a message, or continue a conversation that could have ended long ago, it often reflects an underlying emotional investment. You might notice this in subtle ways. She sends you a photo of something that reminded her of a previous conversation. She asks a question she could easily have answered herself. She revisits topics that have already been discussed. She shares a small detail from her day that doesn't necessarily require a response. None of these actions are dramatic, but together they form a pattern, and patterns are often more revealing than isolated moments. What makes these interactions meaningful is that they create continuity. They allow her to maintain a psychological connection with you, even when you are not physically present. In a sense, the conversation becomes a bridge between encounters. It keeps the relationship alive in her mind. There is also a deeper philosophical dimension to this. We often think relationships are built through grand gestures, but most emotional bonds are formed through repeated moments of attention, through the simple act of showing up, through choosing, again and again, to engage with another person's inner world. When a woman begins seeking conversations with you, she is often doing more than exchanging words. She is exploring your perspective. She is learning how you think. She is testing emotional compatibility. She is asking herself, consciously or unconsciously, what it feels like to have you as a consistent presence in her life. This is why the quality of your response matters. Many people become so focused on decoding signals that they forget the larger opportunity. The goal is not merely to identify attraction. The goal is to build connection. When someone reaches out, what they are often seeking is not perfection or performance. They are seeking engagement. They want to feel seen, heard, and understood. And this is where emotional intimacy begins, not through impressing someone, but through genuine curiosity about who they are. As feelings develop, conversations often become longer, more personal, and more frequent. The topics matter less than the willingness to keep returning, because underneath every message, every unexpected question, every reason she invents to stay in touch, there is often a deeper message being communicated. The message is simple: I enjoy having you in my world. And when someone consistently creates opportunities to talk to you, pay attention. Words may start conversations, but the desire to keep them going often reveals something far more important. Because attraction does not always begin with a confession. Sometimes it begins with a simple choice made repeatedly, the choice to reach out, to connect, and to make space for someone in your thoughts, long before you make space for them in your heart. As conversations become more frequent and more comfortable, something else often begins to happen. The interaction starts moving beyond surface-level topics. The discussion is no longer only about daily events, opinions, or casual observations. Instead, a woman who is developing feelings for you may begin sharing parts of herself that are not easily visible to everyone else. One of the most meaningful phrases you can hear in this stage is, "I've never told anyone this before," or sometimes, "I don't usually talk about this." These statements carry a weight that is easy to underestimate. They are not simply pieces of information. They are invitations into someone's inner world. Psychologically, vulnerability is one of the strongest indicators of emotional trust. Human beings are naturally protective of the parts of themselves that feel fragile. We learn throughout life that not everyone is capable of understanding us, and not everyone can be trusted with our fears, disappointments, insecurities, taboo, or deeply personal experiences. Because of this, most people develop layers. There is the version of ourselves we show strangers, then there is the version we reveal to acquaintances. Beyond that exists a deeper layer, reserved for close friends. And beneath all of those is the private self, the part that carries old wounds, private dreams, unanswered questions, and experiences that shaped who we became. When a woman begins sharing those deeper layers with you, something important is taking place. She is not simply talking. She is taking a psychological risk, and risk is always significant. People do not become vulnerable with someone they feel emotionally indifferent toward. Vulnerability requires trust. It requires the belief that another person will handle what is shared with care, rather than judgment. This is why emotional disclosure often develops before romantic disclosure. Long before someone says, "I have feelings for you," they may communicate those feelings indirectly through increasing openness. They start revealing more of their authentic self. They allow you access to experiences that are normally hidden behind carefully maintained boundaries. What is fascinating is that this process often strengthens feelings rather than merely expressing them. Many people assume trust comes after love, but psychologically, the relationship is often more complex. Trust creates intimacy, and intimacy frequently creates deeper emotional attachment. The more someone feels seen and accepted, the more emotionally connected they become. Think about what happens when two people share something deeply personal. The conversation changes. It acquires a different texture. There is a sense that something real has occurred. Both people leave with a greater understanding of one another than they had before. Understanding is powerful because human beings have a fundamental desire to be known, not admired, not idealized, known. We want someone to see who we truly are and remain present rather than turning away. We want our complexity to be understood rather than simplified. We want acceptance without needing to constantly perform. When a woman shares personal stories, painful memories, family struggles, fears about the future, or insecurities she rarely discusses, she is often searching for exactly that experience. She is exploring whether you are someone with whom she can be authentic, and authenticity is where meaningful relationships begin. This is also why your response matters more than the story itself. Many people hear vulnerability and immediately try to solve the problem, offer advice, or redirect the conversation. But often what creates connection is not having the perfect answer. It is being fully present, listening carefully, responding thoughtfully, creating an environment where honesty feels safe. In many ways, emotional intimacy is less about speaking and more about making room for another person's truth. As feelings develop, you may notice that her disclosures become increasingly personal. The stories become more detailed. The emotions become more visible. She begins sharing not only what happened in her life, but how those experiences affected her internally. That shift is significant because it reflects growing emotional trust. She is no longer merely telling you facts. She is allowing you to understand her. And understanding is one of the deepest forms of connection available between two people. So when a woman says, "I've never told anyone this before," listen carefully. The real message is often much larger than the words themselves. She is not simply sharing information. She is offering access to a part of herself that few people ever get to see. And when someone trusts you enough to reveal their hidden world, treat that trust with respect. Because feelings often begin growing the moment someone discovers they can be fully themselves in your presence, and still feel safe enough to stay. As emotional trust deepens, another subtle but powerful shift often begins to emerge. A woman who is developing feelings for you may start talking about the future in ways that include you, not necessarily in obvious or dramatic ways, but through small comments, passing observations, and seemingly casual suggestions that reveal something important about where her mind is beginning to go. One of the phrases that often appears during this stage is remarkably simple: "We should do that sometime." At first glance, it may seem insignificant. After all, people make casual plans all the time. But when viewed in the context of growing emotional connection, these statements can carry much deeper meaning. Psychologically, the future is one of the most valuable spaces we possess. It exists entirely in our imagination, yet it shapes many of our decisions, hopes, and relationships. We do not casually invite everyone into that space. The people we picture in our future are usually the people who hold emotional significance in our present. This is why future-oriented thinking is such an important indicator of developing feelings. When someone begins imagining experiences that include you, they are doing more than planning activities. They are mentally experimenting with your continued presence in their life. They are asking themselves, consciously or unconsciously, what it would feel like to have you around tomorrow, next month, or even much further down the road. You might notice it in small comments. "We should check out that place one day. You'd probably love this event next year. I can already imagine your reaction to that. When this project is finally finished, we should celebrate." These statements may seem casual, but they reveal an important psychological process. The relationship is no longer confined to the present moment. It is beginning to extend into imagined future experiences. And imagination matters. Before any meaningful relationship becomes reality, it usually exists first as a possibility. Human beings often create emotional attachments through anticipation. We become connected not only to what is happening now, but also to what could happen. In many ways, anticipation is one of the earliest forms of commitment. When a woman starts bringing you into future conversations, she is often signaling that your presence has become psychologically meaningful enough to include in her vision of what comes next. What makes this particularly interesting is that people rarely notice themselves doing it. Feelings often develop quietly. They influence thoughts long before they influence decisions. Someone may not yet be ready to call their emotions love or attraction, but they begin making room for another person in their mental landscape. And that room is important, because every meaningful relationship requires space, not just physical space, but emotional and psychological space. A willingness to imagine another person's presence as part of your life. A willingness to consider their role in your future experiences. A willingness to move from me toward we. This transition is subtle, yet profound. Philosophically speaking, relationships change the way we experience time. When we are emotionally detached, our future belongs primarily to ourselves. We make plans independently. We think in individual terms. But when someone begins to matter deeply, the structure of thought changes. The future becomes shared. Even before any official relationship exists, emotional attachment often expresses itself through this expanding sense of togetherness. The mind naturally starts connecting personal goals, experiences, and possibilities with another person. This is why comments about future plans often carry more emotional weight than people realize. They are not necessarily promises, they are possibilities, and possibilities reveal desire. A woman who consistently includes you in future scenarios is often revealing that she enjoys the idea of your continued presence. She is expressing comfort with the thought of you remaining part of her life. She is exploring what greater closeness might feel like. Notice that this is not about grand declarations. In fact, the strongest signs are often the smallest ones. A casual mention of a trip months away, a joke about something you'll do together in the future, a spontaneous comment that assumes you'll still be part of each other's lives. These moments reveal more than simple planning. They reveal emotional investment, because people do not instinctively build futures around individuals who mean little to them. They reserve that mental space for those who have become significant. So when a woman begins saying, "We should do that sometime," listen beyond the words themselves. What you may be hearing is not a plan, but a perspective, not a schedule, but a feeling. Because the moment someone starts imagining you in their future is often the moment you have become more than a passing presence in their life. You have become a possibility worth keeping. And every meaningful relationship begins the same way, not when two people promise each other a future, but when they quietly start hoping one exists. As someone becomes more emotionally important to us, something subtle begins to change in the way we seek guidance, reassurance, and perspective. We start valuing certain opinions more than others, not because those opinions are always objectively better, but because the person offering them has acquired emotional significance. This is why one of the most revealing signs that a woman is developing feelings for you is that she begins seeking your opinion with unusual frequency and sincerity. You may hear questions like, "What do you think I should do?" or "Can I ask your advice about something?" At first, these questions might seem ordinary. People ask for advice all the time, but the deeper question is not whether she asks once. The deeper question is whose opinion she consistently chooses to seek. Psychologically, asking for someone's perspective is an act of trust. It means we believe that person's thoughts have value. It means we are willing to allow their viewpoint to influence our own. And perhaps most importantly, it means we care about how they see us. Human beings are deeply social creatures. We develop our sense of self partly through relationships. The people who matter most to us become mirrors, through which we understand our own experiences. Their reactions help us interpret events. Their feedback shapes our decisions. Their understanding offers emotional grounding. When a woman begins turning to you for guidance, she may be revealing that your perspective has started to occupy a meaningful place in her internal world. Notice that this is not simply about solving problems. Many men make the mistake of assuming that attraction is demonstrated through constant admiration or overt romantic signals. But emotional attachment often appears first through influence. Someone starts giving your words more weight. They remember what you said. They revisit your advice. They become curious about how you would interpret a situation. That curiosity is important, because curiosity is often one of the earliest signs of emotional investment. A person who feels indifferent toward you may hear your opinion and move on. A person who is developing feelings becomes genuinely interested in how your mind works. They want access not only to your conclusions, but to the process behind them. They want to understand your perspective, because understanding you has become emotionally rewarding. This is why you may notice that the questions become increasingly personal over time. Initially, she may ask about practical matters, a decision at work, a disagreement with a friend, a challenge she is facing. But as trust grows, the questions often shift toward subjects that reveal her deeper values and concerns. What would you do if you were in my position? Do you think I handled that the right way? Am I overthinking this? These are not merely requests for information. They are invitations into her decision-making process. And invitations create intimacy. There is a philosophical dimension to this as well. Every meaningful relationship involves a gradual opening of influence. We allow certain people to shape us because we respect them. We admire qualities they possess. We trust their judgment. Their perspective becomes part of the way we navigate the world. This does not mean surrendering independence. Quite the opposite. Healthy emotional connection is not about dependence. It is about meaningful exchange. It is about recognizing that another person's insight can enrich your understanding of yourself. When a woman repeatedly seeks your opinion, she may be communicating something deeper than admiration. She may be expressing respect, and respect is one of the most overlooked foundations of attraction. Physical attraction can create interest, emotional chemistry can create excitement, but respect creates depth. It creates the sense that another person possesses qualities worth listening to, learning from, and keeping close. This is also why your response matters. If someone trusts you enough to seek your perspective, the goal is not to impress them with perfect answers. The goal is to engage thoughtfully, to listen carefully, to offer honesty rather than performance. People often remember how understood they felt far longer than they remember the specific advice they received. As feelings develop, your opinion may begin carrying emotional weight that extends beyond this topic being discussed. She may not only want to know what you think about a situation, she may want to know how you see her, because beneath many questions lies a deeper desire, the desire to be understood by someone whose opinion matters. And that is where emotional attachment quietly grows. So when a woman consistently asks, "What do you think?" pay attention. She may not simply be looking for answers. She may be revealing that your perspective has become important to her. Because the moment someone begins valuing how you see the world is often the moment they begin valuing their place within your world as well. And few signs of growing affection are more meaningful than that. As emotional connection continues to deepen, there comes a point where feelings become increasingly difficult to keep completely hidden. Not because someone intends to reveal them, but because the mind has a way of expressing what occupies it most. What we think about repeatedly eventually finds its way into our conversations, our habits, and the small things we say without fully realizing what they reveal. This is why one of the strongest signs that a woman is developing feelings for you is that she begins revealing, directly or indirectly, how often you are on her mind. Sometimes the statement is obvious. She might say, "I was just thinking about you," or "Something happened today, and it reminded me of you." Other times, it appears in subtler ways. She references a conversation you had weeks ago. She remembers a small detail you mentioned in passing. She brings up a joke, a story, or an observation that most people would have forgotten. What matters is not the specific comment itself. What matters is the pattern beneath it. The pattern tells you that your presence is extending beyond the moments you spend together. Psychologically, this is significant because attention is never random for long. Human beings naturally return to the people and experiences that carry emotional meaning. The mind revisits what matters. It replays conversations, reflects on interactions, and searches for connections between present experiences and emotionally important relationships. In many ways, thinking about someone is one of the earliest forms of emotional attachment. Before there is commitment, before there are labels, before there is even certainty about what one feels, there is attention. Persistent, recurring attention. And attention has a remarkable quality. It tends to organize itself around significance. We think about what excites us, what concerns us, what inspires us, and what feels emotionally alive. When a woman frequently finds reasons to mention you, remember you, or connect unrelated experiences back to you, she may be revealing that you have become a meaningful reference point in her psychological world. This often happens without conscious intention. Someone sees a book you would enjoy. They hear a song that reminds them of a conversation you had. They encounter a situation and immediately wonder how you would react. These moments may seem small, but they reveal something profound. Your presence has become integrated into the way they experience everyday life. Philosophically speaking, relationships alter perception. When someone matters to us, the world itself begins to feel different. We start noticing things through the lens of that connection. Experiences are no longer entirely individual. They become linked to memories, conversations, and people who have emotional significance. This is why attraction often manifests through association. A woman developing feelings may find herself connecting ordinary moments to you without trying to. She may mention your name in conversations more frequently. She may revisit shared experiences. She may bring up details that demonstrate not only that she listened, but that she continued thinking about what was said long after the interaction ended. And this distinction is important. Listening shows interest. Remembering shows investment. Anyone can pay attention for a moment. Emotional attachment reveals itself when attention continues after the moment has passed. You might notice that she remembers your preferences, your goals, your concerns, or stories you told weeks earlier. She recalls details that seemed insignificant when you shared them, not because she made a deliberate effort to memorize them, but because emotionally meaningful information tends to stay with us. The human mind is selective. We do not remember everything equally. We remember what resonates. And resonance is often where feelings begin. This does not mean that every remembered detail is proof of romantic interest. Human relationships are more nuanced than that. But when these moments occur consistently, when she repeatedly demonstrates that you occupy space in her thoughts, they become part of a larger pattern that deserves attention. Because affection often grows quietly, long before someone openly admits their feelings, they may already be carrying that person with them throughout the day. They may already be mentally including them in experiences, reflections, and memories. They may already be forming a connection that extends beyond physical presence. And that is what makes this sign so powerful. It reveals not what someone says when you are in front of them, but what happens when you are not there. So when a woman tells you, "I was thinking about you," or repeatedly demonstrates that she remembers the small things others forget, listen carefully. The deeper message may not be about the specific memory or comment at all. It may be about significance. Because the strongest feelings are rarely revealed by grand declarations. More often, they reveal themselves through quiet consistency. The simple fact that someone continues to carry you in their thoughts, even when there is no reason they have to. And when you become part of someone's inner world, you have already become far more important than you may realize. One of the clearest signs that a woman is developing genuine feelings for you is not necessarily that she showers you with compliments or openly declares her attraction. In fact, it is often much subtler than that. It appears in the way she begins to separate you from the category of everyone else. She starts to speak about you differently. She starts to see you differently. And eventually, she may even tell you directly. You hear phrases like, "You're not like most guys," or, "I don't usually talk to people about this, but with you it feels different." Sometimes it sounds like, "I've never met someone who thinks the way you do." These statements may seem simple on the surface, but psychologically, they reveal something profound. When a woman is emotionally detached, people tend to blend together. She notices qualities, of course, but she doesn't invest much energy in distinguishing one person from another. Emotional attachment changes that. The mind begins to focus. It starts paying closer attention. It starts searching for what makes one individual unique. This is an important shift because attraction is not just about liking someone. Attraction is about significance. It is about assigning meaning. When someone begins to matter emotionally, the mind naturally starts creating distinctions. It highlights differences. It searches for qualities that make that person stand apart from the crowd. Think about how we experience art, music, or literature. Most things pass through our awareness without leaving a lasting impression. But occasionally, something captures us. Suddenly, we notice details we would have ignored before. We find ourselves returning to it, thinking about it, exploring it. Human relationships work in much the same way. When a woman says, "You're different," she is often describing an experience she is having internally. She is telling you that your presence is affecting her in a way that other people do not. She may not fully understand why. She may not even realize the depth of what she is communicating, but the emotional significance is there. What's particularly interesting is that women often become aware of emotional attraction through trust before they become aware of it through romance. Many people imagine attraction as a sudden spark, a dramatic moment, but in reality, lasting feelings are often built on something quieter. They emerge through repeated experiences of safety, understanding, and emotional reliability. This is why statements like, "I feel comfortable with you," or "I can be myself around you," are so powerful. Comfort is often underestimated in modern discussions about attraction. Yet, psychologically, comfort is one of the strongest foundations of intimacy. It allows people to lower their defenses. It allows authenticity to emerge. And authenticity is rare. Most social interactions involve some level of performance. We manage impressions. We choose our words carefully. We hide certain insecurities. We reveal only selected parts of ourselves. When a woman begins to feel that she does not need to do that with you, something important is happening. She is experiencing emotional freedom in your presence. That freedom often leads to admiration. Not admiration in the superficial sense, but admiration rooted in character. She begins to notice how you handle challenges, how you respond under pressure, how you treat people when there is nothing to gain. She pays attention to qualities that reveal who you are beneath appearances. This is where many men misunderstand attraction. They focus exclusively on being impressive. But emotional connection is rarely built on impressiveness alone. It is built on consistency, on integrity, on being someone whose actions align with their words. Over time, a woman developing feelings for you stops evaluating you against an ideal fantasy. Instead, she begins comparing you to her actual experiences with other people. And when she says, "You're different," what she often means is that she feels more understood, more respected, or more emotionally connected than she expected to feel. That is not a casual observation. It is evidence that you have become psychologically significant in her world. And significance is the beginning of attachment. The deeper truth is that people do not fall in love simply because someone is attractive. They fall in love because someone becomes meaningful, because that person occupies a unique place in their emotional landscape, because their presence starts to feel irreplaceable. So when a woman begins telling you, directly or indirectly, that you are different from other men, listen carefully. She may not be describing you as much as she is revealing what is happening inside herself, because the moment someone sees you as different is often the moment they stop seeing you as just another person and start seeing you as someone who matters.